Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a focused learner looking to absolutely dominate your upcoming exams, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're undertaking the ultimate high-yield study session covering Chapter 3, Plant Kingdom. We're going to break down the complex taxonomy, trace the incredible evolutionary journey of plants, and most importantly, we're going to tackle real, highly tested competitive exam questions together.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. 1. Plant classification systems. 2. Algae, the aquatic pioneers. 3. Bryophytes and pteridophytes. 4. Gymnosperms and angiosperms. And finally, number 5, plant life cycles. Let's get started.
All right, Section 1, Plant Classification Systems. We're looking at the shift from superficial traits to evolutionary lineages. So, before we can really study individual plants, we have to understand how scientists actually organize them, right? Because classification isn't just about naming things, it's about understanding how life is connected. To really appreciate modern classification, we have to look at the natural system. This system is based on natural affinities among organisms. Now, this was a massive upgrade from the earlier artificial system proposed by Linnaeus, which frankly grouped plants together based on just a few superficial traits. The natural system goes so much deeper. It looks at external features, sure, but it also examines internal features like anatomy, embryology, the ultrastructure of the cells, and even phytochemistry, which is basically the chemical makeup of the plants. George Bentham and J.D. Hooker famously used this incredibly robust system for classifying flowering plants. Let's immediately apply this to a real competitive exam question from our Allen test prep source. The question asks, natural system of classification differs from artificial system in. I'm going to take a brief pause here. Based on what we literally just discussed, try to formulate the answer in your head. Let's break down the solution line by line so you can guarantee full marks. First, consider the artificial system. As we noted, it relies only on limited, easily observable traits. Next, contrast that with the natural system, which considers a comprehensive range of external and internal traits, all the way down to phytochemistry. So our final result is clear. The natural system's true superpower is that it brings out the true similarities and dissimilarities among organisms by considering that wider range of characteristics, rather than just one or two floral traits. It simply gives us a much more accurate picture of evolutionary relationships.
Section 2. Algae, the aquatic pioneers. Algae are simple, largely aquatic organisms that are honestly the unsung heroes of our planet. They actually produce about half of Earth's oxygen. And breaking down the three main classes brilliantly illustrates exactly what you need to memorize for your exams. This is high-yield information from Philo. Pay very close attention to the pigments and the reserve food, because these are prime targets for exam questions. First, chlorophyceae, the green algae. They use chlorophyll A and B and store food as starch. Then we have phaeophyceae, the brown algae, which use chlorophyll A, C, and fucoxanthin, storing their food as laminarin and mannitol. Finally, rhodophyceae, the red algae, rely on chlorophyll A, D, and phycoerythrin, and they store their energy as Floridian starch. Seriously, let these facts be your best friend when reviewing algae. Okay, let's test your immediate recall of those facts with a direct, short answer question from Extra Marks. What are phaeophyceae? How would you construct the perfect, full credit response? Let's systematically dissect the required answer, line by line. First, identify the habitat and color. You must state that they are mostly marine and are commonly known as brown algae. Second, for their pigments, you need to list chlorophyll A, chlorophyll C, carotenoids, and specifically fucoxanthin, which is what actually gives them their color. Finally, for stored food, explicitly mention laminarin and mannitol. By combining these facts, you get your final result, a complete biological profile of phaeophyceae defined by their unique pigment composition and specialized carbohydrate storage. Nailing every single one of those lines is exactly how you construct the perfect response. Moving on to Section 3, Bryophytes and Pteridophytes, the transition to land. Here, we are observing one of the absolute greatest leaps in evolutionary history, the transition of plant life from the water to the land. But before we look at exam questions, we need to carefully define a crucial evolutionary milestone, and that is the seed habit. This refers to the retention of the female gametophyte on the parent sporophyte for a variable period of time and the development of the zygote within it. Think of this incredible adaptation as a protective incubator for the developing embryo. It's an essential precursor step to modern seeds, and it's first observed in heterosporous pteridophytes like Selaginella and Salvinia. Keep this concept in mind. It really sets the stage for the rest of the plant kingdom. Let's take a look at another extra marks exam question. Which plant group first shows vascular tissues? It's a foundational question about plant anatomy.
Let's walk through the solution to this one line by line. Scanning our evolutionary options, we have algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, and liverworts. Now remember that bryophytes, which include liverworts, are known as the amphibians of the plant kingdom. They live on land, sure, but they lack true roots, stems, and most importantly, they completely lack vascular tissue. Pteridophytes, however, are the true pioneers here. They possess true roots, stems, and leaves equipped with xylem and phloem for internal conduction. Therefore, our answer is undeniably C, pteridophytes. They were the very first terrestrial plants to evolve internal plumbing.
All right, here is a highly conceptual question that frequently trips up students on competitive exams. Why is heterospory important in evolution? Let's explain the logic here line by line so you never forget it. To start, let's just define the term. Heterospory is the production of two distinct kinds of spores. You have your large macrospores, which develop into female gametophytes, and your small microspores, which develop into male gametophytes. Because of this specific differentiation, the megaspore can germinate and the resulting female gametophyte can actually be retained on the parent sporophyte. This means the zygote develops into an embryo in a protected, stable environment. Ultimately, this specific mechanism is exactly why heterospory is considered the vital precursor step towards the evolution of the seed habit. Plants like Selaginella literally paved the way for modern seeds.
Section 4. Gymnosperms and Angiosperms, the age of seeds and flowers. Let's move along and see how this all builds into our next topic. We are now talking about the dominant plants of our modern era. To truly master this section, we must clearly contrast these two massive groups. Gymnosperms, which literally translates to naked seeds, scandalous, I know, have ovules that are completely exposed both before and after fertilization. They rely on a single fertilization event. Angiosperms, the flowering plants, are entirely different. Their seeds are safely enclosed within fruits, and their ovules develop inside highly specialized structures called flowers. Furthermore, they exhibit a totally unique phenomenon called double fertilization, where one male gamete forms the zygote and a second male gamete forms the endosperm, which is what nourishes the embryo. This brings us to a really classic question found in NCERT and Get My Uni materials. Both gymnosperms and angiosperms bear seeds. Why are they classified separately? We're going to break down the answer logically to ensure you know exactly how to phrase this fundamental biological distinction. Looking first at gymnosperms, you must clearly state that their ovules are naked. They are not enclosed by any ovary wall whatsoever. Conversely, in angiosperms, you state that seeds are enclosed in fruits, and, crucially, that the pollen grains and ovules develop within flowers. As a final result, it is this physical characteristic, the enclosure of the seed within an ovary wall versus remaining exposed, that acts as the primary taxonomic difference, physically separating these two massive seed-bearing groups. And finally, Section 5, Plant Life Cycles, the alternation of generations. This is where we look at how plants alternate between two distinct multicellular phases, the haploid gametophyte and the diploid sporophytes. Now, what's really interesting here is how it summarizes the shift in dominance as plants become more and more complex. In the haplontic life cycle, which we see in many algae like Volvox and Sparagyra, the haploid gametophyte is the dominant independent phase. The sporophyte is literally just a single-celled zygote that undergoes meiosis. On the other extreme is the diplontic life cycle, seen in gymnosperms and angiosperms, where the diploid sporophyte is the dominant photosynthetic phase. Finally, we have the intermediate haplodiplontic cycle, found in bryophytes and pteridophytes, where both the haploid and diploid phases are multicellular and alternate prominence. Let's tackle a tricky Get My Uni question that tests your grasp of these life cycle mechanics and ploidy across different plant groups. Mention the ploidy of the primary endosperm nucleus in a dicot and the zygote of a fern. Let's explain the biological math here line by line, because knowing the mechanics means you never have to guess on test day. Think back to double fertilization in an angiosperm, a dicot. One haploid male gamete fuses with a diploid secondary nucleus to form the primary endosperm nucleus, or PEN. 1 plus 2 equals 3, so the PEN is triploid, or 3N. Now contrast that with syngamy in a pteridophyte like a fern. A haploid antherozoid fuses with a haploid egg to produce the zygote. 1 plus 1 equals 2, so the zygote is diploid, or 2N. Therefore, our final result is the PEN is triploid and the fern zygote is diploid. See? If you understand the life cycle, you absolutely always get it right.
Wow, we have covered incredible ground today. We've decoded classification systems, traced the steps of aquatic algae, watched bryophytes and pteridophytes colonize the land, and examined the brilliant innovations of seeds and flowers. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. How does understanding this immense evolutionary jump from a tiny, water-dependent haploid moss to a towering, complex, fruit-bearing diploid angiosperm change how you see the plants right outside your very own window? Remember, these aren't just exam facts for you to memorize. This is the incredible, unfolding story of life's conquest of our planet. Keep studying, keep observing, and I will catch you in the next explainer.